4 weeks ago today, on the first Sunday of 2026, we stood on the edge of a year. We looked at a map, we checked our gear, and we talked about the skills for the streets. Some of you started that journey with us. Right? During our season of prayer and fasting. Some of you were there for the whole thing. You were there from day 1, you made it to day 15, and then you hit the wall, and it's okay. Cool. Some of you were here for every Friday night prayer meetings. Cool. But again, they weren't prayer meetings, they were family gatherings, because I got to hug the necks of the people that were here, my brothers and sisters. Some of you are just joining us today, joining the group today as we're starting a new journey into the rest of 2026. Either way, today is a milestone. Today, we move from the pre-trip inspection that we talked about in Germany, and we're stepping out onto the trailhead. We're officially stepping out onto the path. Here, look at the screen. Look at this image. This is really cool. This image is our home base for the next 2 months. We're doing Proverbs for 8 weeks, all the way to Easter. I already said that. And I want you to look closely. Look closely at this image. This is the golden hour. Notice how the light on the outside of the room floods into the room, and it lights up everything inside. In the ancient library of God's word, of God's wisdom, the scroll is open. And we're looking out that window. The path is straight. The path is clear. The field is gold, and the horizon is free of storms and clouds. In the world, Proverbs is the sun. In the world of Proverbs, the sun is shining. And the direction and the path is clear and it's plain. It's a season of clarity. This is the straight path. This is the straight path before the fog of summer or the storms of autumn. We have to master the basics here in the morning light before the fog and the storms of life come rolling in. Our goal today is posture. That's our goal today, posture. You can have a $500 pair of hiking boots and a GPS satellite, but if your internal compass is shattered and broken, you're just going to walk in circles. Before we move into the deep wisdom of into wisdom literature, into the deep of the wisdom literature, we have to calibrate our hearts. We have to change our posture. So to remind you what Proverbs is, the word talks about wisdom. It's wisdom literature. And the word here is hakma. Hakma, right? And it isn't about being book smart in Hebrew. It's about being skilled. Right? In the Old Testament, the people who wove the beautiful fabrics of the tabernacle, they were called hakma. When you read about the sailors and stuff of that time, they were referred to as that navigated the Mediterranean Sea and stuff. They were hakma. They were skilled people. And we live in an information age, but we are starving for skill. You can watch a 10-minute YouTube video on how to perform a surgery, but if you don't have the hakma to pick up the scalpel, what good is the video? What good is the information? We aren't here for more information about God. We are here for the wisdom or the skill for living with and living for God. So that when life throws its storms and the fog comes rolling in, we can always find the path. Again, think back. Y'all remember the story about the health nut we discussed back in the first week? right? We see that person who eats perfectly, runs 5 miles a day. We want their results. We want their energy. We want the sleep quality. We want the blood pressure. God knows I do. I just found out my blood pressure's high. I should probably stop yelling at you guys. But we often try to bypass the skill needed to be the health person. We don't want to eat healthy. We don't want to exercise. We want the results, but we don't want the skill of being that person. Wisdom is exactly like health. You can't cram for a healthy body the night before a doctor's appointment. Can't. Your body's not going to lie. The scale won't either. When I stepped up the scale at the doctor's office and it said 296, I thanked Jesus because I thought it was going to be bigger. I ain't even lying to you. I was like, I'll take it. I'll take it. 296. Come on, right? It's the result. Your health is the result of 1,000 small, skillful choices. Instead of M&Ms, you eat carrots. I'll never do that. I don't like raw carrots. Proverbs is the gym where we develop the spiritual muscles, the stamina, and the perseverance in a world that is trying to pull you into the easy path, which leads to destruction. Proverbs is where we build the strength to stay on the straight path, the narrow path. So why are we spending a whole year talking about God's wisdom and looking at wisdom literature? Because biblical wisdom is like this. It's a tripod. It needs all 3 legs to stand. Proverbs is the rule. The way God created the world, this is what should happen. Again, we've all experienced a calming word displays anger, right? But we've all had that moment where we do something calmly and the person retorts with more anger. Proverbs is when everything is the way God designed. The path is straight. If you work hard and you eat right, you're going to be okay. Ecclesiastes, we talked about, is the fog. It tells us that sometimes the bad guy wins and the good guys suffer. It's where the path becomes almost impossible to see. And Job is the storm. It's what we do when the path completely washes away. What do we do? The danger is, if you only study Proverbs, in my opinion, if you only study Proverbs, you become like a Pharisee. You become judgmental and rigid because this is how it is. This is what it says. And if you only study Ecclesiastes, you become a critic of all things alive and all things in life because life is a vapor. We'll get there. We need all 3 views, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job, to have the balance and the resilient faith needed to live in this world, to follow our King no matter what happens to the path. So why start with Proverbs? Why start here? And it's probably the most important thing that I hope you remember from last month. It's because Proverbs is a compass. It's not a manual. A manual is for a controlled environment. It's like building a Lego set. Any Lego people in here? There's a few of y'all. I know there's a few of y'all in here. Okay? If you do step 1, you get result 1. 1 for 1. 1 for 1. In a Lego set, there is one right way, and there's 1,000 wrong ways to do it. But life in 2026 isn't a plastic set of bricks. It's a living wilderness. And a manual makes you focus on your feet or the potholes that are in your path. A compass makes you focus on the horizon. A compass makes you focus on Jesus. When life gets messy, when the formula doesn't seem to work, the wise person doesn't panic. They just check the compass and they keep walking towards the compassionate Father, towards their graceful King, and towards the intimate friendship of the Spirit that we've all experienced. But if you remember, if you're holding the compass, we have to ask who's holding it. Like, if you're holding it, then why? Because a compass is a useful tool if the person holding it is willing to follow it. It does you no good if you're not, I got the cover closed. I got a compass though, I know where I'm going. Proverbs describes 5 types of people. And again, as we're getting ready, I need you to, again, I'm just trying to reiterate this, right? So I created an image to help you understand this. JC is going to put it on the magic screen right behind me. This is the ladder, and I have to ask you, which rung have you been standing on since we started in January? Which rung? Are you the simpleton? You aren't bad. You're just open-minded to a fault. You drift. You go wherever the wind blows. Whatever YouTube video person you're watching is what you follow. Are you the naive? You know the truth, and you think you're the exception? You say things like, I know I shouldn't spend this money, but it'll be fine. Who cares what the budget says? I used the B word. Are you the fool? You stopped drifting and you started choosing. You do what you want and you hate being corrected. I have people in my life that say, I do what I want, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. I do what I want. I've said that. Don't tell me what to do, I do what I want. And if I had to guess, there's a lot of you in this room that have said the same thing. I do what I want. I do what I want. The mocker. This is the most dangerous rung. You know why? Because you don't just do wrong. You mock those who do right. Or in other words, you think you are the North Star. You think you are the North Arrow on the compass. And when somebody tells you that your compass is broke, you mock them. And then there's the rung we're all shooting for, the wise. The wise person. And this isn't a destination, y'all. This is a direction. A wise person is the lifelong listener. A wise person is the person who has traded in their megaphone for their hearing aid. So again, look at the ladder. Most of us start right there in the middle. We're the simpleton. We're just drifting through this thing called life. But I want you to notice the direction of the rungs. And this was very intentional. Wisdom is an uphill climb. It takes the skill, the hakma we're talking about. It takes effort. It takes energy. It's not just handed to you and you get it. Wisdom is a person we follow and not necessarily a thing we do. But look what happens. Have any of you been on a ladder and you just let go? There's a thing called gravity that takes effect. And you're going one way and one way only. When you let go, you don't stay the simpleton. If you aren't climbing up towards the wisdom of God, and you aren't standing still because you're holding on, trying, you're falling down towards becoming the mocker. You're falling down towards self-righteousness, towards pride that says, I am the North Star. You're sliding down into being naive, to being the fool, and then you hit rock bottom and you're the mocker, and you think, it doesn't matter what anybody says to me, I'm right, they're wrong, stop talking to me. And here's the great news. Here's the great news, y'all. Solomon tells us exactly where the ladder begins. He gives us the starting line. And he tells us that in Proverbs 1:7. This is where we're going to camp out for the rest of the day. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. So if we're talking about the beginning of knowledge, the beginning of wisdom, and we're talking about that for a very, very long time, we should probably start right here with the fear of the Lord. You want to be a lifelong listener? If you want to start with you who are listening, we hear the word fear and we think of a horror movie. Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers, not to be confused with Austin Powers' Michael Myers, but the one with the white mask. We think of God as a bully, of an angry man who's waiting to just mess everything up for our lives. But that isn't the chokmah meaning of fear. In the world of craftsmen, I'm a craftsman by trade. There's several of you in here. Fear in this application is what I'm going to call the posture of the apprentice. Right? Imagine a young apprentice standing in the ancient library or in the master's workshop. And he fears the master, not because the master is cruel, but because the master has the terrifying amount of skill. The apprentice realizes, I don't know what I'm doing, but he does. He does. I don't know what I'm doing in my life, in my job, in my paycheck, with my paycheck and my livelihood. And my life depends on the fact that I know who the master is and who I'm following. It's the posture of the apprentice. Right? When the apprentice fears the master, it isn't just about respect, it's about the safety of the apprentice. You know why they won't let they don't let electricians in general work on anything hot anymore, but you know why they don't let apprentice electricians do it anymore? Because they don't know what they're doing. I got shocked more times than I can count because a journeyman said, hey, hold this. And he didn't turn it off. Okay, hand it to me. Ah! When the apprentice fears the master, it's not about the fear of the master, it's about the respect, it's about safety. The master's skill is what keeps the apprentice from ruining the work that he's working on. It's the master's skills that prevents him from messing up the hunt. It's the master's skills that keeps the apprentice from being electrocuted, which is death by electricity. I haven't been electrocuted, I have been shocked because I'm still here yelling at you. Proverbs says this, Whoever fears the Lord, whoever has reverence for the Lord, whoever has respect for the Lord has a secure fortress. And for their children, it will be a refuge. Tell me about it. You see, the fear of the Lord isn't what makes you tremble in a corner. The fear of the Lord is what gives you strong confidence. Why? Why would the fear of the Lord give you strong confidence? Because you aren't trusting in your own shaky hands anymore. You're trusting in the Master's hands. And when you trust in his hands, it becomes a refuge, a safe place for you and your family, because you've aligned yourself with the one who has designed the world from the very beginning of creation. And guess what? That's the person that I want to follow. He knows how it was all done. You didn't like that one because you're not a craftsman. Let me give you another example. Think of a sailor. Think of the ocean. A seasoned sailor fears the sea, the ocean, the water. He doesn't hate it, and he isn't hiding from it because he's out in the middle of it. He wouldn't be a very good sailor if he never left the dock. But a seasoned sailor respects the power of the water. He knows that if he stops respecting the sea, one thing and one thing will happen. He's going to end up at the bottom of it. And how many of you feel like that's life right now? You stopped respecting life and you feel like you're at the bottom. The fear of the Lord is the humble recognition that God is the ocean and I'm just a boat. It's trading your expertise for God's authority. The sailor feels the ocean so he doesn't end up at the bottom of it. But the wise sailor, the one that's seasoned and understands that the same ocean that he respects and he fears is the same ocean that carries him home. He understands that it's the same ocean that provides him the food that he needs while he's on the boat. He understands that it's the same water, the same sea that provides him the path to get to his destination. Proverbs says this: the fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, turning a person from the sneers of death. Solomon is telling us that this fear, this posture of the boat to the ocean is actually a fountain. It's where the energy comes from. It's how we spot the snares or the traps that the fool and the mocker fall right into because they think they know better than the currents of the water. A seasoned sailor knows the current's going to go this way. The fool or mocker is coming right back towards it, and they're exhausting themselves. And it doesn't help. It doesn't work. There's one other final posture that I want you to look at. Look at what this posture does to your internal world when you stop trying to be the North Star and you start following the North Star. You finally get rest. You finally get sleep. The fear of the Lord leads to life. Then one rest content, untouched by trouble. I don't know about you, but I would love to be able to say that when I lay my head down on the pillow, that I am untouched by the troubles of this world. because I love Jesus and I respect God, and I know that everything's going to work out, even if I don't understand it. And I can't speak for you, but I know there are many nights when I wake up and I can't go back to sleep because this thing won't stop thinking. The world is exhausted because it's trying to navigate a wilderness without a compass. But the lifelong listener, the one who fears the Lord, can rest satisfied. You can put your head on the pillow tonight and you can say with confidence, I don't have to run the universe. I just have to follow the one who does. And here's the crazy thing. Solomon says that this is the beginning. This is where we start, is the fear of the Lord. You can't even get to the simpleton rung on the ladder until you admit that God knows more about your money, that God knows more about your sex life, that God knows more about your anger, that God knows more about your career, your sin, your mistakes, your marriage, that God knows more than fill in the blank. What is it for you? Fill in the blank. What is it? The fool despises instruction because he thinks he is the master. The mocker hates the fear of the Lord because he wants to be the Lord. But the wise, the lifelong listeners stay on the top rung by waking up every morning and saying, Lord, I am the apprentice and you are the master. Lord, I am the boat and you are the wind and the waves. Adjust my compass. Change my posture towards you. And when we do, look what happens. When we take this posture, for there will be a graceful ornament on your head and chain about your neck. And we usually think the fear of the Lord is like a heavy set of shackles that are going to drag us down. Something that weighs us down and keeps us from having fun. We're not allowed to have fun because we believe in Jesus. Stop it. But Solomon is telling us it's the opposite. It's an ornament, it's jewelry. It makes your life beautiful. When we fear the Lord and we listen to his wisdom and we take him as our master, all of a sudden our life becomes more beautiful. Let me ask you, have you ever truly met a wise person? There's a grace about that kind of person. They don't have to shout because they've traded in their megaphone. They have a quiet confidence because they aren't trying to be the North Star, but they are following it. We've looked at the library, we've checked the compass, we stood at the ladder, and now we have to walk. So here's my challenge. And the Bible clearly tells us this. You cannot be the master and the apprentice at the same time. You can't do it. You cannot do it. You can't be the North Star and follow the North Star simultaneously. You can't do it. You can't serve both money and God You can't serve both your career and God. You can't serve both your family and God. You will hate one and you will love the other. You will despise one and you will love the other. And for some of you, you've spent the last 4 weeks, maybe the last 4 years, trying to navigate the straight path using your own expertise. And if you're honest, you're exhausted. You're worn out. You've tried to be the ocean when you're just a boat. The good news is that the fear of the Lord isn't a burden. It is a release. It's the freedom to finally say, I don't have to know it all. I just have to follow the one who does. I don't have to know it all. I just have to follow the one who does. When I take that posture, the pressure to be perfect vanishes. The need to shout through your megaphone to prove that you're right disappears. You get to trade in heavy shackles of doing it your way for the graceful ornament of God's wisdom, of God's skill. You become someone who carries a quiet confidence into a loud and chaotic world. So as we close, look one more time. Look at the window in the library. That path leads to a person. That path led to a cross. Solomon wrote these words. A lot of the words that we talked about today. But Solomon, he would eventually stop listening. And Solomon would take out his hearing aids and he would pick up his megaphone. But the great news, the good news is we don't follow Solomon. We follow a greater Solomon. We follow Jesus. We follow the ultimate apprentice to the God who created the world. So much so that he knew that the Father was in complete control when everybody thought the world was out of control. Jesus was like, no, he's still in control. I'm going to do it because I trust him. He's the only one who never drifted into being a simpleton, never played the fool, and he never mocked. He took the straight path all the way to the crooked cross so that when we fail, when we slip down the ladder, we can reach up and he will pick us up and set our feet back on the path. So tomorrow morning is February 2nd. If you didn't know. When you open your Bible to read, maybe you go through Proverbs again, because we're going through Proverbs again. Maybe you're doing something else. Don't just read it to get through it. Read it to find your king, to find your master, to find your North Star. Wake up and say those words that I told you. Lord, I am the apprentice. You are the master. I am the boat. You are the ocean. Father, adjust my compass. Let's be people who are known not for how much we know, but for how well we listen and how well we love. Let's pray.